Is this the legendary Bigfoot caught on camera? Or is it another hoax? Does it even exist at all? According to the man who shot this film, and dozens of people who claim to have seen it, it's the real thing. Tonight, the evidence is pieced together to bring you closer than ever before to the truth.
You think it's all a hoax, and then all of a sudden there's one right in front of you, and you don't know what it is for sure. You're not sure whether it really is a Bigfoot or what.
I saw it. I mean, he was about here to that house, probably 50 or 60 yards. I mean, I've got very good eyesight, and I've been hunting since I was 9 years old.
You guys ain't gonna believe this, but I saw something big and hairy walk across the road.
From what the legend I hear about it, I don't think so. I mean, if it's Bigfoot, it ain't no bear around here. I ain't never seen a bear that big.
I don't know. People's imagination, who knows?
Personally, I'm skeptical about it. I really believe that if there was something out there, I could find some evidence of it. And so far, I have not found any evidence of anything of that nature.
I believe in what I saw, and I'd say it was a Bigfoot.
The creature, or whatever it is real. He's out there somewhere.
When you think of Oklahoma, you think of the Old West, wide open prairies, Native Americans, land runs, and of course, tornadoes. But here in central Oklahoma, about 100 miles southeast of Oklahoma City, they have a unique phenomenon to add to the state's list of attractions: Bigfoot.
Good morning, everyone. In today's show, we look into the Bigfoot phenomenon. With over 20 sightings now.
It's day 18 of our Bigfoot watch. Now, don't forget to call us with your stories and
Two
sightings.
local policemen believe that they may have seen Bigfoot while out camping.
With over 20 sightings now on file, people are starting to take this seriously.
It's a cold night out there tonight, folks, so wrap up well, and don't forget to watch out for the Bigfoot everyone's talking about.
Since 1998, there have been dozens of reported sightings of a large, hairy ape-like creature standing some 9 feet tall with a terrible odor. Those who claim to have seen him remember the experience vividly.
I've never ran away from something I was afraid of before. And I don't necessarily want to see it again. I haven't ever ran away from something that I was afraid of like that ever before, and I figured I had to come back and face it. I'd say there's a fair amount of fear in the air.
Do you care if you see him again?
Part of me wants to see him, but part of me hopes I never see him again. It's a feeling that I'd never experienced before. The fear just overwhelming. Even tonight, I'm just not sure.
No one knows exactly what they are. Reported sightings have come from as far afield as China, the Ural Mountains in Russia, and the forests of the Pacific Northwest of the United States. To some, they are called Sasquatch or swamp apes. Others call them Yetis. The term Bigfoot was first coined by Dr. Grover Krantz in 1972, while he was investigating reports of large, upright, ape-like creatures in California, and came across a series of huge footprints. The experts on primates and human evolution say that there is no such thing as Bigfoot.
There's no physical evidence for the existence of Bigfoot. At this point in time, I think Bigfoot is a big fable. In all a considerable amount of time has been put into looking for Bigfoot, and not one skeleton, not one tooth, nothing has been found that truly would verify the fact that it is something other than one of the various kinds of bears or someone dressed up to cause a sensation in their area or just to tease somebody.
There was a giant ape called Gigantopithecus, but it became extinct over 1 million years ago in Asia.
Maybe 50,000 years ago, early migrants came across from Asia, across the Bering Straits, or one of those crossings in the far north from Asia, and they do have a similar animal to Bigfoot in Asia that has existed at least in the minds of the people over there for generations. And it's quite possible that that animal followed the migrations or was a part of the migrations that came to this country. And that would be the most likely origin of any higher primate other than man in this country.
Those who know about Bigfoot have toyed with the idea that the Yeti, the Asian equivalent of Bigfoot, is in fact a remnant of Gigantopithecus, that it did not in fact go extinct tens of thousands of years ago, but persists in Asia. But the only big chunks we have are the anterior parts of 3 mandibles, or lower jaws. And the name is well deserved. The one is particularly massive. Strangely, and this may help those who liked Bigfoot in the United States, no other bones have been found.
Tracks have been found, but their authenticity has always been questioned. And so far, the few seconds of film of alleged Bigfoots have been received skeptically.
There is a film of a purported Bigfoot, which the hair is so uniform over the body that one has to assume it's a costume of some sort. Because in non-human primates, almost inevitably, they have variation in hair length over their bodies.
The local Seminole Indians believe that Bigfoot does exist, and that it has special powers.
It uses its magic to get away, a part of a hypnosis stage that it puts people in, and to where it could be standing right there in front of you and you still wouldn't see it.
Although it's highly unlikely that such a creature exists today, how do we explain the several thousand reported sightings across America? Some could be bears, tricks of light or shadows, maybe even elaborate hoaxes. But what about the rest?
3-4 weeks ago, my daughter saw some creature like that standing behind a tree. That's all I know.
Really? What'd she say about it?
Well, she didn't know either. Some kind of like animals, like a bear or something, had a fuzz all over him. He was tall. He's just hiding behind a tree.
I think that people are seeing Bigfoot or just seeing a big bear. The bears that I've hunted in Alaska stand up, and I mean they stand pretty tall, 8-10 feet. So they could certainly mistake one for a Bigfoot.
Yeah, I've never seen an animal in the wild with a instep. Never seen one with 3 toes, and that's what really got to me, and I still don't know what it is. I'd like to know.
But we did find footprints, and there were quite a few of them. From time to time, they would just be there, and what we saw appeared to have 3 toes on it, and it was fairly large footprints, but they weren't anything that anybody we knew could identify, so everybody had ruled out bears.
Well, some of them, especially in snow and whatever, I think are bear prints. Or there's a chance they could be people in snowshoes who have left, not deliberately, but just people come along later and see these. But the ones that are the clearest in mud and sand and whatever could very likely be people who are trying to get a bit of attention to the issue in their area.
In the making of this program, dozens of eyewitness reports from local residents were examined, some from years ago and some still fresh in the air. The team's aim was simple: to visit the locations where the sightings had been reported most recently, and if it did exist, to capture a Bigfoot on film. With the team was Cindy Baer, a local journalist from Tulsa, who has been investigating the phenomena for years, and David Wilbanks, a field researcher who has studied Bigfoot since he was a child.
Generally, it's creature, upright, bipedal, humanoid type creature, anywhere from 5 to 9 feet tall. We get reports of them having a long reddish type hair over their body, which is most common around these parts. A fairly large number of sightings that they relate a foul odor to. And the more common odor I've heard described is like a wet dog that's rolled in some really bad roadkill.
How strong this odor is, I don't know. I haven't smelled a Bigfoot odor, but I think any impressions, visual, auditory, olfactory, when you're nervous and frightened somewhat or just a bit on edge would be intensified, I would expect. So it's hard to know what really people have sensed olfactorily if it's not Bigfoot.
For every one person that's willing to come forward and say something about it, there's a good chance there's 3 or 4 more in that same area that has seen the same thing and just, doesn't want the ridicule or don't want to put their reputation on the line. But there is a lot more sightings reported in Oklahoma than what people realize.
I was coming down the old road, and when I was coming down, I could come to an area and there was this curve in the old gravel road, and when I got to it, these 3 deer ran right out in front of me and down the embankment to my left. And just immediately they turned and ran back up the embankment again and crossed the road in front of me and almost hit one with the truck. Well, when I stopped, I looked down in the woods to see what spooked them, and there was this thing standing down there by a tree, and it looked to be about maybe 6 to 7 foot in height, and it had dark blackish brown hair covering its body, and it was standing on 2 feet. And I had to look twice because I wasn't sure what it was. You could tell its head was kind of like a football shape. It had like a crest to its head. And I looked at it, and it was looking right at me. And kind of made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. And I watched it for a couple of minutes, and all of a sudden it just turned around and took off walking on 2 legs down the hill and disappeared down through the mountain.
Usually people do these as pranks. I know people. In fact, I have a relative who has carved huge feet to walk around in a park as a joke on the rangers there that he knows. He's also told me of rangers encountering a man in a gorilla suit holding the head of the costume under his arm walking along the road, which seems rather ill-advised since some people want to shoot Bigfoot.
Local game warden Mike Virgin had heard many of the reports, but was less than convinced.
I really don't know what to make of it all. I think that a lot of people that are telling the stories really believe they've seen something. Some of them may be making it up just to get a little publicity, but I don't know. I don't know what to think of it. I've been here a long time and I've never seen anything.
It was probably about 9:30 in the evening, and as we were just driving along, I just happened to look to the right of me, and on the back side of a barbed wire fence, I saw a large creature, like it was sitting down, and it had its legs out beside it, and it was holding itself up with its arms. And the thing that caught my attention was this thing, the shoulder span was so wide, it had to be at least 3, maybe 3.5 feet wide. And the head on this thing was enormous. There was no neck at all.
I think it was just some comedian in a costume just out trying to fool people myself.
Well, the possibility is that they are misidentifying other animals, other creatures, and there's also the possibility it's just plain hoax.
I imagine there's some out there, though, don't you? Guess we'll find out someday.
Most animals, or all animals for that matter, that live, they leave some form of sign in the form of tracks or droppings. And something that's 8 feet tall and weighing 400 or 500 pounds is going to leave some pretty big tracks, and lots of them. And they're also going to leave a lot of droppings because they're going to eat a lot of whatever it is they eat. You'll be able to find where they've been feeding and what have you. So far, I hadn't found any evidence of this. And just about any other type of animal that we have here, I can go find sign, find tracks, and other evidence. I've never seen any evidence of a Bigfoot.
Of the dozens of reported Bigfoot sightings that had come out of this area, one in particular stood out. In the summer of 2001, here in remote river bottoms a few miles out of Adair in northeast Oklahoma, local police officers Dan Belda and Jeff Whitfield say they came face to face with Bigfoot while out camping. They have no doubt as to what they saw.
I'm convinced that it was a Bigfoot.
No doubt whatsoever.
The hair, it had reddish dark hair, you know, the cone-shaped head, and kind of the swing in the arms and the big steps.
Couldn't have been just a big gorilla?
Not, you know, we were probably 5 miles off the main road back in these woods up and through here, and there's no way somebody would by chance hope for us to drive down that road that day so they could walk across the road in a gorilla suit.
Dan and Jeff agreed to take the crew back to the same spot on the lake bottoms. This was the first time that they'd returned. With them was Bigfoot researcher David Wilbanks and local journalist Cindy Baer, who had been investigating this phenomena for years.
I'm convinced that they saw something out of the ordinary in the woods. They've seen bears, they've seen, you know, the native wildlife around, and they see something like this, they're scared to death.
Having gone as far as the four-wheel drives would take them, they then went on foot into the heart of the woods. Night vision equipment allowed them to shoot in the dark and enhance these images.
Now, this is my first time back.
You didn't even want to come tonight, did you?
Not really. I haven't ever ran away from something that I was afraid of like that ever before, and I figured I had to come back and face it.
How are you doing right now?
I'm pretty anxious.
You're shaking.
Yeah.
You're breathing kind of heavy.
I'd say there's a fair amount of fear in the air.
I think the thing that put me into almost a frightened mode of what's going on was watching Jeff's reaction, a man who never wanted to return to that spot. But his friend Dan said, come on, let's go and tell them our story. And you saw the fear in this man's eyes. I mean, he's a large man, and he looked like he was almost brought to tears. He was standing there. I had a hold of his arm, and he was shaking. Do you care if you see him again?
Part of me wants to see him, but part of me hopes I never see him again. It's a feeling that I'd never experienced before. The fear just overwhelming, even tonight. I'm just not sure.
As the group approached the spot where Dan and Jeff had had their Bigfoot sighting, they spotted something moving in the brush.
They think they see some movement on this ridge right up here.
Yeah, there's definitely something moving around.
And I have to tell you, frankly, I think I've seen it too, and it's right here, and that's where I want the light to go. It was right up on the ridge, and I know that Robert, our cameraman, also saw it too. It was as if a shadow was rocking between two tree trunks. And I looked up there, but I wasn't going to say anything. And then it was when the cameraman, Robert, said, do you see that? And then also Dan said he saw it. Then I was like, I guess I'll admit that I saw it too. So we all saw something rocking and moving up there on that ridge. That's why we went up then further on the hill to look. Well, it's that you can see a movement left and right.
Between trees.
Yeah, it's rocking side
here.
to side. We've heard that before, Dave.
Yeah, the rock throwing stuff that we were hearing earlier. I was reading in a book.
Right there. I'm not kidding you. See this tree right here?
Here, I've got a laser beam on this. Now, okay, now are you talking about this tree right here?
No, I'm talking about like right in there.
Right in there.
Right in there.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. You know, fear breeds fear in itself, you know, but I still feel that, you know, what was going on out there it's unexplainable.
Hey.
So,
What was that?
Right over there. Oh my God, right there.
There's somebody moving over there.
I don't know about you, but I'm ready to go.
There it is again. God. Okay. Oh my God.
yeah. Did you throw that?
No.
Oh.
Is someone fooling around here?
That was something on it, then.
Obviously, nobody's fooling around, right?
I never experienced anything like that. You know, the rocks being thrown at us, and you know, the amount of movement that there was in the woods at night. It was extraordinary. If it had been anybody in a costume or trying to create a hoax, it'd been very dangerous for them to try to create a hoax. Something just threw a very large rock at us.
Oh yeah.
Very, very large rock.
Yeah, we're standing about where that thing was.
Yeah, we.
Are you really?
Yes, we are.
This is about as far off the path as it was.
It came right over there, and I even heard it.
Yeah, something threw a big rock.
And it's right over here.
It's gone now.
Well, we've ran into that before down here, and I've heard reports before of a Bigfoot throwing a rock at a person just to maybe not try to hit him, but to discourage him from being there. And that rock obviously came from up higher on that ridge and bounced off one of these trees down here.
It was right
there,
and it's moved. It has moved from that area. Because there was a big feeling, there was a lot of blackness right in there, and it moved off as soon as my laser came up that way. That hole right there was a lot
darker.
Yeah, a lot darker right in there.
You want to back up? Because I feel like backing up.
We don't want to force you to be out here.
I'm out here on my own free will, but I'll tell you what, this isn't what I expected tonight. Part of me wanted to tell myself that we wouldn't see anything, but I know that's not true now.
That part's not talking right now, is it?
No.
But seriously, we're not trying to force you to stay out here.
I understand.
Okay.
You know, one of the main reasons I came out was to face what I was afraid of. Common sense says there's something out there.
One thing that's interesting is these people want to tell their story and they want to be believed, but then they also hesitate a little bit, and who wouldn't? It's the same as trying to get somebody to tell you about the UFO they saw. They're afraid that they're going to be seen as just a little crazy and just making it up. But these people believe in what they saw.
We were not drinking, and it wasn't a trick of light, you know. I think it was very real what we saw.
What was it that the group had seen and heard? There were rocks hitting tree trunks and movements in the brush, and several of them even saw what they thought was a large, dark shape moving from side to side, just 100 yards away from them. But at night, out there in the wilderness, your eyes and your ears can play tricks on you.
I saw their eyes. They truly believed they saw something, and it frightened Jeff to the point he didn't want to have to go back to that place. And I stood next to them when we heard rocks and rustling. So, are they lying? No, I don't think so. I think they believed something. Me, though, I want to see it.
Even experienced people can see things in the woods unclearly enough that they can't explain what they actually saw. And once you've heard of Bigfoot and so forth, it's a very likely explanation for what you saw, even if it doesn't exist.
Get out of there, it stood up.
As they were packing up to leave, another rock was thrown into the back of one of the support trucks. Someone or something seemed to be playing with them. Was whatever Dan and Jeff saw still there?
No, I didn't.
Is that a rock?
I was standing right here when it did, yeah.
On who, Dave?
Yeah, he's doing those chatting as we're walking along the street.
Just a few of us. Dan was on this side. All of us heard it land right in the truck.
I heard it too.
The morning after, the team were told that there had been a sighting on a farm just outside Antlers, due south of them. Cindy Bear met with the farmers, Clint and Gary Morgan, and they agreed to take the crew to the spot where they had seen what they thought was a Bigfoot striding across an open field in the moonlight. After dark, the group set off to investigate.
I don't know. It was huge.
It was, yeah.
It was huge.
The moon might have been out a little brighter that night.
Yeah, but it was, I mean,
you could definitely see
that
it was a huge brown or black colored creature. And fortunately, it was a moonlit night like this, only probably a little bit brighter.
Yeah, probably a little brighter. But we were down here probably 100 yards or so. And as the creature come across through here, he stopped at this fence here. We were kneeling down where we could see him from here. And it literally just took one hand here and just stepped over the fence. I mean, it was a very agile creature.
Oh yeah, it walked upright all the way, so.
And just hopped the fence.
It just hopped the fence. It literally just hopped the fence.
We're real close to some river bottoms here. This is Sandy Creeks, which is a tributary of Muddy Boggy. And it's what I would figure to be a prime location for a Bigfoot to be.
We're literally in the middle of nowhere.
So, how far from the nearest town?
Oh, I'd say at least 10 miles. I mean, we're 10 miles from the nearest town. Easy.
So you see this creature and you scream. Anybody gonna hear you?
Absolutely not. There's nobody gonna hear you out here. This is pretty wilderness. I mean, we've got a little open field here and stuff like this, but basically there's no houses, no human beings for miles.
So wherever it walked off to, it could still be out there?
Oh, definitely.
Yes, definitely.
I could see these people believe in what they saw, and I think they came honestly to us. What is it? What is it I think that they see? I don't know. I wonder if being out there in the darkness, in the woods, you can hear animals, you can hear birds, the scurry, the wind, just the atmosphere alone gives you like you're watching a Hitchcock suspense film. It puts you on the edge of your seat, and I wonder if then that collectively, whether you're a group of campers or you're just two people out fishing or you're taking a walk along a country road, if somebody thinks they saw something, it lends to make the other person go, yeah, I think I saw something too. But I believe these people believe that they saw something, so I respect that.
To some people here in southeastern Oklahoma, Bigfoot is much more than just a legend. Dozens of people claim that these creatures are stalking their property out here, peering in their windows, and even stealing meat from freezers outside. There is even a report of a man shooting at one which had gotten too close to his cabin.
One night something hit the house really hard. It shook the whole house, so we all went to see what had caused the noise. And when we got there, we had a dining room window that was pretty good ways off the ground, and something passed by it that had to have been awfully tall and pretty big because it covered the entire window when it went by, and it was hairy. But as far as what it was, don't ask me, I have no idea.
Thieves, human thieves and bears, I think, are the two suspects. And of course, bears learn to eat garbage, either by being fed in national parks. People probably shouldn't do that, or raiding the containers, garbage containers.
I thought it was a cow at first. And I said, well, that cow's tangled up in that fence in the snow or whatever. And about that time, it stood up and walked across the road. It covered the road in about probably 3 steps. It went over the side, and I'm screaming at my wife. She's off in a book. And she looks up, she said, well, what was that? I don't know. And we turn back around, and there's nothing going through the brush.
It was walking across the hayfield. And I know we were scared, and it was between us and our house. And I remember that much, seeing this hairy It had a lot like fur, like darker colored. I don't remember if it was black or brown, but it was fairly large, probably, oh, I don't know, the size of a man. And it was just up, and it came out across the hayfield, you know, and went off into the woods.
He was probably 7.5 to 8 foot tall, reddish brown hair, but I did not smell any odor. Everybody said, "But you smell odor?" And I saw him for probably 5 or 6 seconds. He just walked across, walked just like a man would.
Could be some people playing around like that. Could be teenagers. It could be people who think they're still teenagers, but they're adults. You know, people who just want to play a practical joke. That might be part of it, yes.
I believe there's more than one, because when my dad was in college, him and his college buddies were out camping, and they came into his camp.
Well, there was a gentleman that lived south here down at Idabel, told me several years ago he was squirrel hunting and said that he saw a Bigfoot. And when he related the story to me, there was no doubt that I believe that he really thought he saw one. He said it was probably 8 foot tall, had long reddish brown hair over its entire body, had the appearance of a man standing upright on 2 legs.
I think a Bigfoot could survive, but I think it's highly unlikely. I think most of that, people are hearing owls crying, possibly mountain lions. There may be an occasional mountain lion that comes through. We have lots of coyotes. They make sounds that interest people, and sometimes people may misinterpret those.
In terms of noises, often the reports are shrill, bird-like or screechy things. There are, of course, birds who make these kinds of sounds. And also, I believe, deer. Often these animals, these Bigfoots, are reported in areas where there are deer and elk, and their calls are quite high-pitched.
Many of the reports of Bigfoot sightings have come out of the Kiamishi Mountain area in southeastern Oklahoma. They're covered in millions of acres of forests, deep valleys, and creeks. In spite of the ever more intensive logging operations and the hunting season, much of the area is still untouched wilderness. And there are those who believe that it's possible that a creature the size of Bigfoot could hide out and survive here.
Well, we're in the mountains of southeast Oklahoma, which is the most remote area left in the state. And there's a lot of local wildlife, indigenous wildlife, like, you know, there's bear. We could see a bear, bobcat, coyotes, you know, possums, raccoons. There's just a lot of wildlife here.
You know, I know that scientists are going to say there's no way something could survive out there. But, you know, to know Oklahoma, and especially the eastern side of this state, it is so hilly. The terrain goes from flat to mountainous. Sure, something could survive out there.
The crew leased this cabin high in the mountains with one simple aim: to stake out whatever creature this was in its own backyard. With them was David Wilbanks and local journalist Cindy Baer, who had been investigating the sightings for years. The crew had set up an array of state-of-the-art night vision and remote camera technology. Whatever was out there, they hoped to capture it on film. 19 different infrared camera angles were positioned around the cabin, and 3 crews with night vision in the surrounding woods.
Yeah, if there's something out there, I think it would be a real good thing, this technology, because it gives us a window onto the woods without actually bodily intruding into the woods. So we're not out there for it to smell or to sense there.
As darkness fell, so did the temperature. An ice storm had dropped it to way below freezing. Dave Wilbanks took control of the remote camera units in the woods and scanned the monitors for any sign of movement. It wasn't long before the team picked up activity outside.
The people that have reported seeing it from a distance, obviously they relate it to an ape because it's big and hairy, walking upright. The few people that's had a face-to-face with one, what is the most scary thing about them is they said it's not like a monkey or an ape. It's more man-like.
Matt's got some movement on the hill over here. Dave's gonna go up the hill.
Is this the initial area where we think we heard some movement earlier this evening? Just because there isn't evidence of a Bigfoot found yet doesn't mean that evidence doesn't exist. It just hasn't been found. And when you're out there and you're walking and you hear the leaves crunching and rocks and trees, yeah, you want to see it.
Dave, would Matt see if there? By the entrance of the house. Dave, you come to that over.
Is there any strong odor?
Yeah, we're getting pretty close. Probably about 100 yards. Got something moving around up there?
Although there had been some movement in the brush, the rapidly worsening weather forced the team to call off their surveillance. The morning after, the full severity of the ice storm was apparent. The cabin had lost all power, and the team found itself stranded on a frozen mountaintop. David Wilbanks went out to check for footprints and the remains of the bait after the night's activity.
What do you reckon?
Nothing. Just like expected.
Why do you think nothing came?
Well, you know, if there's a little better weather, it's the ice storm. You know, not too many critters moving around. Any other time you might expect to have had a bear or a coyote, bobcat, something like that come up. But, no, in this ice storm, you're not going to have any movement.
The search for Bigfoot here in Oklahoma had so far produced some interesting but inconclusive results. The team had already come across something in the river bottoms near Adair, and something large was moving around the cabin in the Kiamishi Mountains. But there was nothing to prove that this had been Bigfoot activity and not a bear or a hog. In a final effort to help solve this mystery, they contacted the local Seminole Indian tribe. Bigfoot is well known to them. In fact, they believe that there is more than one.
One is called Stechupko, which means tall man. And he's a tall, Bigfoot-like creature with grayish-brown hair and about 9 to 10 feet tall in that area. There's also one that appears usually in the morning time called Ihoza, which means forget. And that's what this being or creature, animal, makes you do, is forget.
Although woven into their legends, the Indians believe that Bigfoot is a real flesh and blood creature that also has hypnotic powers.
They have magic. Magic able to disappear. Because even when the non-natives, they chase this thing, I noticed that the natives, that the Indian people, when we see it, we kind of get scared of it. But still, we don't bother it.
He lives underground, and he comes out only at nighttime. He doesn't. If you put a light on them, they'll disappear in the woods. They even had helicopters, to look for it. They never did find it. And there's it. It just disappeared in the river bottom.
And so it knows it's in danger, and it uses its magic to get away. A part of a hypnosis stage that it puts people in. And to where it could be standing right there in front of you, and you still wouldn't see it.
Tim claims to have first seen Bigfoot while out fishing in this area as a child.
I caught a fish and I heard a grunt that Didn't sound like no bear or a man. And pretty soon I seen the top of the head. It kind of set up straight to where I could see from about its chest up. And its eyes didn't focus on me, it focused on the fish. This creature with long arms had reached down and picked it up.
Tim Harjo agreed, along with his son Kanjat, to take our crew deep into the Kayamishi Mountains. The following morning, they start trekking to an area where he claims he's seen the creature many times. It wasn't long before he picked up some tracks.
This is what I look for. Look at mine. Right here. Okay, here. Something like that. Whatever it is. Something big goes through there. And it goes down to the bottom. There's a trail. Unless it's a great big buck with a huge rack. But whatever it is, it's big. And if it's the creature we're looking for, he's around. We just got to find out where. Along the edge, there are some big boulders. It's like where one would take shelter, but there's no sign of one that would look like that has been sheltering there. Falling in and out. But let's journey on, see what we can find. You smell it? Do you smell it? You sure? Stink. Stay put.
We can't be far off it. Can't be far off the top of the hill.
No, I ain't gonna say, but that opening right there, let me see what's there.
The one going up over the top?
Not over that right there, it's right there. There's a, see that thing moving?
And the big opening on the top?
Not on the
Through
top.
Clear space in the middle.
And down, about middle ways.
Yeah, white figurey looking thing. Never mind.
You see it moving?
Sorry. You see it, bro? I haven't looked. I'm trying to do it with the lens, but then I can't see it on the lens, too far away.
Bigfoot? It was too far away for anyone to make out, but there seemed to be something tall walking upright on the hill across from them. After 2 days trekking in the mountains, the team had finally seen something. But what? That night, cameraman Martin Huntley, a self-confessed Bigfoot cynic, recorded this video diary in the forest.
Rob, the other cameraman, and myself trekked up the hill with Tim and Kumja, his son, and Martin, the sound recordist. And we got about halfway up, and first of all, Rob smelt the smell, which was, he said, smelled like a wet deer. He said smelled like a wet deer, and I'm going to pick up on this again. I heard a grunt noise that I've actually heard Tim do before. So I backed up slightly to see if I could see Tim, and I'd seen him stood at the top of the hill about 2 minutes earlier. And for him to get back down to me, he would have had to have moved quite fast and made quite a bit of noise. And I've spoken to him about it, and he swears it wasn't him. So something stood within 30 foot to me, or sat or crouched within 30 foot to me, grunted like a and I don't think it's so much that that something was stalking me. rather than I came across something. I'll believe it when I see it. But there's something.
Is Bigfoot really out here in Oklahoma? Does it really exist, hiding in these forests? The scientists say it's impossible. It's just an urban legend or a hoax. But for those who claim to have seen the creature, whatever it is, it's all too real. And as long as there are still sightings reported, the mystery of BigFootVille will continue.
There's still things that we haven't found yet and can't explain. And when somebody says something now, I listen a little harder. A little harder what they're saying than what I used to. You know, it was bull. But at one point it was just bull and I looked away and walked away. But now I listen. There might be something there.
We want hard evidence. All of us do, to really truly believe in something. But I do believe these people we've talked with know in their hearts they've seen something. For me, though, I want to see it.
Well, the challenge I would level at the cryptozoologists who believe in this is that they bring to a laboratory, a DNA laboratory, a bone, a tooth, some hair with follicles, some feces, subject it to DNA analysis and see if one comes up with something that is unexplainable.
It's going to take a body, period. That's it. You're going to be able to come up with all the DNA evidence from whatever, but until somebody drags a body in and says, bang, here it is, there's going to be the doubters.
This tall man that everybody looks for, he was here, and so was I.